I'm pissed. If you're new to my channel, and if you're not, welcome back. All you need to know about me today is that I'm Mike and I'm hairdressing for 11 years. In today's film we're going to be discussing the current situation in Ireland and has the Irish government let down the hair and beauty industry. I'm going to go through all the facts and how hard it was actually working during the last period since we reopened from the 29th of June. So if you want to sit with me on this discussion, then you better keep on watching. What is the story, everyone? Once again, we meet in very unusual circumstances. But to better understand the current situation and the situation that we are all in at this moment, we need to rewind and go back in time and go back to March of 2020. In March of 2020, back then, the Taoiseach Leo Varadkar made a very important speech to the Republic of Ireland.
Good evening. Láila Pádraig Honadíobh. This is a St. Patrick's Day like no other. A day that none of us will ever forget. Today's children will tell their own children and grandchildren about the national holiday in 2020 that had no parties, no parades, but instead saw everyone staying at home to protect each other.
A few days after that statement, the whole country went into a total lockdown, including hairdressers and other unessential businesses. Now, I must say, I want to thank Leo's government because back then it was the right decision to make and people felt safe and it was the right thing to do. My own salon closed on the 16th of March, so we closed even before we were told to close because my bosses didn't think it was safe enough to work in that environment. Back then, the old government done a great job. We had social security, everything was going right in plan. And we reopened back on the 29th of June 2020. And I tell you, it was amazing. It was like Christmas. It was like Christmas in the summer. People were so happy to see hairdressers. We were so happy to be back into work. But we were back under very different circumstances. We had to follow the guidance and we had to follow the government rules. We had to wear face coverings. The whole salon got a total remake. We had to take out stuff like tea and coffee. There was no more magazines. We couldn't take clients' jackets. We had to operate in 2 meters apart between stylists and clients, so every second chair was empty or there was a divider between sections. And we've worked really hard like that. And now, Karen, before you say anything and you tell me that all I worry about is getting a haircut or people worrying about their haircut, listen out to me and listen to what I have to say because there's so much more to it than just getting a haircut. I've had clients coming in saying to me, have tea or coffee? I'm like, I'm sorry, but for your own safety, we're not allowed to serve tea or coffee. I've had clients coming in giving me their jacket. I'm like, I'm really sorry, but you have to keep your belongings at you at all time. Make sure it doesn't touch off anyone else's belongings for your and others' safety. We're working in face masks for 6 to 8 hours, sometimes if not longer. And for those who wear face masks, you know that it's not that easy. But it's adaptable, you can really adapt to it, and after a few weeks it was just second nature to have the mask on you. We had a salon policy that clients had to wear a face covering, and if they didn't, they weren't allowed to get their hair done. Salons in Ireland, and I'd say probably all over the world, and I'm not saying all salons followed the regulations because I'm sure there's always a few that were doing their own thing and didn't bother to listen to people, but the salon I work in definitely did, and the salons of my colleagues that I know did that as well. We've done everything we could to protect us, to protect the clients, and to give that hairdressing experience that we could. I mean, when you go into a hair salon, you look for luxurious, nice experience, and some of that was missing due to not being able to serve tea or coffee or sitting in between dividers. I mean, it's not the nicest thing in the world, sure is it? Or even having a magazine. Now, digital magazines did come into play, but I mean, you want that Hello magazine in your hand or you want the newspaper in your hand. I am not a voice of every hairdresser out in the world, and this is just my opinion and my opinion solely and how I feel at the moment. Only last week, the Irish government decided to put the whole country into lockdown level 5. On Taoiseach Micheál Martin said,
Therefore, for a period of 6 weeks from midnight on Wednesday night, the entire country will move to level 5 of the framework for living with COVID-19. Before I talk about what this will mean...
So for 6 weeks the salons have to be shut and other non-essential businesses and places like construction work can stay open because building hotels is quite essential for Ireland because we need more hotels in Ireland, and building hotels definitely tackles the home crisis that we have in Ireland. And when that announcement came in, I feel like loads of hairdressers nearly felt like they got a punch in the face. Having all those regulations and all the guidelines that we've went through, and some salons went through hell to fit the salons correctly. They had to borrow money, spend a lot of money to fit the salons. The government didn't give us screens, they didn't give us masks. That all had to be paid for and sourced for. And I actually felt safer in my salon than I would feel in any supermarket out there on the streets. Places were jammed with people, and the salons are quite sterile. The poor clients, and let's not forget about them. Some of those people were not used to the face mask like we would be, because obviously we done weeks with working on them, but they would come in, get their mesh, get their haircut that would sometimes last 3.5 hours, and they would sit there with the mask on, no tea or coffee, just scrolling through their phone, and that's not comfortable either, is it? But we've done our bit. So closing hair salons was very much like, right guys, we're gonna close you, but let's leave the constructions open, because even though there was clusters of the virus in the construction work, and only on the 6th of October RT News said that the cluster at ESB construction site in Dublin, and guess what, they were actually building their new offices, they weren't building new homes, as dear Taoiseach Micheál Martin said that's why construction work is essential. On the July 20th, Irish Times did say that Dublin outbreak is first significant cluster on a building site. So building sites were actually coming and going with the whole cluster of the virus. Hairdressers haven't, nail salons haven't, retail stores haven't, but I know some of you may think and say, right, hairdressers are not an essential business, but getting your hair done is more than just looking good. Loads of people are signing petitions about gyms, and I go to the gym myself, I love the gym, but in my gym no one was wearing a face mask, sure were they? You know what the fellas in the gym are like? They'd be huffing and puffing, and do you think any of them was wearing a mask? I'd say maybe about 2% of people that I seen in the gym were wearing a face covering, and I was wearing my first covering, doing weights, doing cardio, and you know what? It did not stop me. I still could breathe, and I am good and healthy. And I did keep my distance from other people in the gym. I would just sit in my rack, but not everyone did. And this is the truth. So people saying that the gyms are for mental health, yes, they are, but also working out in outdoors is equivalent. Like, you can still get your workout at home. Getting your hair done is actually very good for your mental health as well. And I know, Karen, you're just gonna go into that comment section and just say your few bits. But for some people, getting their hair done is not necessarily about looking good, but it is about feeling good. When you have roots, when your hair isn't right, you just feel awful. The minute you stand up from that hairdressing chair, you feel like $1 million. Some people don't spend money on clothes, they don't spend money on makeup, they don't spend money on drink or fancy food or restaurants. They spend their money on the hair. And I definitely think that going into a hair salon for some people is for the mental health and for feeling better and for having a good experience and for having a chat with someone and talking to someone that they trust, because it's not just you just go into anyone for hair. You trust that person with your life nearly when you get your hair done, because it is a very personal service, and that's how I feel about the industry. And it's same with like nail bars. It's not like you can, well, you could get your hair done in a kitchen, but that's black market. And if hairdressers weren't so important, and apparently to some people it's not a real job, hairdressing, why was the black market such a big thing during the first lockdown, huh? Let me just touch up on one more thing that Taoiseach Micheál Martin, #NotMyTaoiseach, said in his last speech.
I want to speak for a moment about our schools and childcare services. It is the view of government, supported by the advice of NEFIT, that our schools and childcare services should remain open. This is necessary because we cannot and will not allow our children and young people's futures to be another victim of this disease. They need their education.
So during level 5 in Ireland, schools and childcare facilities are allowed to be open, and I'm all up for education. I am an educator myself. I'm in the work clusters of the yoke in schools, but I can keep my eye closed on that and not think about that for a minute. When it comes to education, right, I am an educator myself. I teach hairdressing, I train young staff, I've taught for L'Oreal Professional, I teach in my salon. I am very passionate about education and education in general, and I think it's a great thing that people still can learn and attend school, and for kids it's brilliant, and I mean parents are delighted because they don't have kids at home and they can work in peace. And third level education, they can study from home, they have their laptops, they can have lectures at home. I mean some schools home teaching and all that. But let me ask you guys, what about the apprentices? What about the apprenticeships in Ireland? You're talking about education, how important education is for young people, but not everyone is in third level education, but maybe because they're not going to have a real job because they're not in third level education. But that's a different topic. There is people in many hair salons that train through hair salons, which is called an apprenticeship. Just like you do apprenticeship in plumbing, you'll do apprenticeship as an electrician. And I only had 2 girls that I've trained personally that their graduation has been postponed twice because we couldn't do their final exams. It's not like you can draw a haircut on the laptop and send it to me via email, or talk to me on the Zoom and explain to me how you're going to cut someone's hair. It's a physical exam. You have to show me your skill, and I have to be able to check it off, and I have to know that you're able to do it. So why are apprenticeships being forgotten? I mean, the apprenticeship system in Ireland is quite poor as it is. It is nearly like forgotten about and people dismiss it. But you're talking about children and their future, but you're putting on hold people's careers. Those people that train in a hair salon or a nail bar, they've had nearly 5 months of their training taken out of them. For people that are at the beginning of it, that's a big part of their training, that's a big part of their education. And for people that are finishing, that's a big part as well, because those people do want to learn and it's their right to learn. I know companies like L'Oreal Professional have organised webinars of colour theory and everything, but when it comes to cutting hair, it's not like you can cut hair on Zoom. Are you allowed to bring a model into a salon and still do education? If they say that you're allowed to travel for educational purposes, are they allowed to bring a model and train? It's all very weird to me, and it nearly feels like the hair and beauty industry has been let down by the Irish government, because like that, we've worked hard, we've done everything we could, and at the end of the day you nearly think, what was the point of us wearing masks? What was the point of us taking longer appointments? And what was the point of all of it if we're back to square one now for 6 weeks to have some sort of a Christmas? And I mean, I'm not going to have some sort of a Christmas. My December is going to be jammed. I can only imagine when I walk into that door. The minute I walk in on the 1st of December, I will not get on the 24th. And my Christmas is going to be in bed, sleeping. So, I mean, my Christmas is definitely not going to be great. I can't imagine I'll have time to go out to a bar, have a drink, or see many friends or family. I'll be stuck at work. So, don't try to tell me that we're going to have some sort of a Christmas. Because there's not going to be any sort of Christmas this year. And that's my opinion. I feel like people that are training apprentices, they're being forgotten about because their careers are put on pause. And how come the kids in school have the right to learn? How come the third level student have the opportunities to learn? But apprentices in a hair salon that learn through working and learn on doing models don't have that right at the moment. And they're literally just left on the cold, and yeah, you might qualify maybe in 3 years when everything is back to normal, but yeah, no, that is my opinion and that is my point of view. Hairdressers are a very safe environment, and it has been proven because there was a case in Missouri where the hairdresser was sick and they looked after 91 clients, I believe, during that period of time when they were actually sick and infectious and all that. And I'm nearly sure that all of those people, all of those 91 people have been checked and they were negative. So everything was fine because they were wearing face covering and they were following the rules. So, like, anyways guys, to wrap this up, I am rather disappointed that I'm sitting here once again just before Christmas, just 6 weeks before Christmas, making this film on my YouTube channel. And it took me a while actually to think and be like, will I make it, won't I make it, is it risky to make it? And I think it's that a lot of hairdressers and beauty specialists, nail girls and all that, they feel exactly the same, that they've been following everything. The salons have been spending a fortune on fittings and we're back to square one. Anyways guys, thank you for watching today's film. I hope you found this film rather interesting, helpful and useful. And I am sorry that we're meeting in a very different scenario and we're not having a laugh today, you know, and all that. But anyways guys, please stay safe and take care. Bye.